Okay, good people. It is, excuse me, coming up on 10 minutes after 10. And so I, do want to get started. And, as people join, I'll kind of work the process of getting them admitted. And I do like to start off by saying this is the LAN 53 networking meeting, May 21st, 2020. This meeting is being recorded. I'm going to put everyone on mute, right? And so this is our monthly meeting. We meet the fourth Thursday of every month. LAN 53 covers Bloom, Bremen, Rich, and Thornton townships. Okay. And so I am going to ask that everyone mutes their phones. And if you could take a second to type in your name, organization, and contact information via the chat box. That is sort of our unofficial way of a sign-in sheet that helps us kind of keep track of who is that kind of helps us keep track of who is attending. And also, just as a point of technical, sometimes people have to call in from more than one device. And so if you are using more than one device, then if you could just make sure you try to limit to one source of audio, and that usually prevents like feedback and the echoing. So we've got a pretty specific agenda today, and this is the agenda that pretty much covers each of the LAN meetings so that we have some consistency. We're going to start off with the steering committee update. Then we'll do agency updates, depending on the number of people that are on the call. If we could kind of keep that to about 3 minutes. And, we'll kind of talk about some other ways that agency updates can be submitted. We'll also have a call to action, specific ways that we're asking LAN 53 members to get involved, as well as we'll bring to the table any old business or any new business. So I am going to kind of roll into the steering committee updates. And the steering committee typically meets the fourth Monday of every month. The Monday that's usually after our regular monthly meeting. This month's meeting is scheduled for May 25th. Our meetings are from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. Of course, May 25th is a holiday. So, the steering committee, definitely has the opportunity to pick an alternative day if that is something that suits all of the members. The steering committee is responsible for strategic planning for LAN 53. And right now, the steering committee is looking at 3 specific strategic planning goals. One is to strengthen the infrastructure of the LAN. As we know, we cover 4 townships, and having an infrastructure that's going to allow us to move towards the capacity that actually engages stakeholders from each of those townships. We do have to have an infrastructure, committees, bylaws, and roles and responsibilities for the members. So that is one of the areas that we are looking at for the strategic planning goals. The other area is to build capacity for our community partners to use evidence-based approaches for strengthening families. So we are looking for ways to build capacity specifically for community-based organizations to really help materialize a connection between the Department of Children and Family Services to provide those services locally with a focus on evidence-based approaches that can be incorporated. And the other area is around reducing barriers to participation in LAN meetings. Of course, as you all know, LAN 53 covers 51 cities in the South suburban area. And one of the things that we did to try to reduce barriers was to move our meetings to a digital platform. So, we reduced the commute as well as a lot of other logistical barriers for people coming out and attending and participating in the meetings. So I want to kind of just talk about a few things that we have been doing where progress has been made. So recently we did make an application in partnership with Lions Clubs International Foundation to the Novo Foundation. The Novo Foundation is a philanthropic foundation that supports innovation and programs and research and development in the field of social and emotional learning. And so we were recently notified that the award was given. And of course, that means that we are going into the phase of trying to finalize the particulars. And it covers some of the areas around capacity building for the LAN 53 steering committee. And the steering committee will work with this grant around developing policy and having some input on the budget, as well as to planning the activities that will be allowed under this grant. So the grant was really about building capacity for the infrastructure in a way that would improve partnerships between the school districts and the community organizations, as well as to maximize our relationship with the Department of Children and Family Services, as well as UIC. Some of the activities that will be allowed will revolve around data collection, such as focus groups, surveys, and town halls. A good portion of the funds are earmarked towards training and professional development for LAN 53 members and stakeholders. There will be opportunities to train community providers as well as educators around the Lions Quest evidence-based curriculum for social and emotional learning. Out of the individuals that will be trained, there will be a limited number of agencies that will actually receive funding and support to actually implement the program. It will also cover opportunities to engage community members as well as members of LAN 53 to become presenters, to share their expertise and provide some of the training and professional development. So for those organizations that do qualify to receive the funding for the Lions Quest program, those organizations and agencies will receive technical support for the training, as well as some limited support for tangible program supplies. They will also receive support for service learning projects, as well as additional support to reduce barriers for accessing resources for the youth and families that they would be serving. So that's a really high-level overview. I think that, that is a conversation that will be continued within the steering committee meetings. And right now, this is a list of our steering committee members. So those members will receive a invite to the Monday meeting, as well as a short email to sort of identify if that Monday being what is it, Memorial Day, if that day is actually something that works for everyone. So this particular project for now covers Dalton, Riverdale, Harvey, and Calumet City. It does not mean that someone who is outside of those areas won't be able to participate in some of the activities, but we are definitely being held accountable for the movement that we're able to get within those communities, with the thought that once we pilot there, it will be something that can be replicated into other cities that fall within our service area. It is not putting a limit on what members can become steering committee members that will come together to shape what the actual program activities will look like from our perspective as being more of a coordinating call. And so I'll kind of pause and a few questions, but definitely inviting people to become steering committee members is really important. And the other thing that the steering committee is working around is reinvigorating the wraparound committee, which involves increasing the visibility of wraparound as a resource to our families and at this time. Also understanding and developing a way for processing and managing referrals, and then identifying members or stakeholders who would want to be involved in presenting new cases for wraparound. So there are a few things that we would definitely like to invite members to be able to do. One is to specifically join the steering committee. What will begin to happen is that the steering committee will be, the steering committee is the governing body of LAN 53. And so there will be certain conversations and decisions that are made within the context of the steering committee so that we can continue to reserve this time as a space that we can invite people to come and to network, to share information and resources, and that we can have a separate meeting to actually handle the business of the LAN. The other thing is that there was a survey that went out called Staying Connected, and we were asking people to identify if they wanted to continue to be on the mailing list and to maybe identify any areas that were of most importance to them. So what we're trying to do is to limit the number of emails that are coming to your inbox. I know that personally I've spoken to several stakeholders, not only here in Illinois, but also in other states, where now that everything is sort of on the forefront and everybody's digital, people are really overwhelmed by the amount of information that's coming to their inbox. So we want to make sure that we're able to do our part to be more thoughtful and strategic about the information that we send you. And I'll give you an example. Our mailing list has almost 100 people. And if you can gauge by the level of ongoing participation on these monthly calls, you can imagine that some of this stuff is going into spam, or just people just really aren't expressly interested at this time. So we want to make sure that we're not overwhelming people. And I think as we, kind of move more into marrying sort of this networking part with actual action planning, then I think it is not a bad idea to make sure that as we are sending out minutes and other pertinent information, that may be information that we want to limit to people who are actually active and engaged. So again, a couple of ways and things that we've been looking at are conducting parent focus groups and other community surveys, and also the opportunity to participate on town halls. It is very important to make sure that we're able to incorporate the voice of the community that we're serving. The other thing is that we have been working in partnership with Lions Clubs International around a cyber chat, which is a virtual peer education and mentoring. We are working with Megan from University of Illinois, and of course with Family to Family, to sort of onboard volunteers or providers who are interested in doing online mentoring. We have run a couple of groups in a pilot phase that have been quite successful and engaging, as well as we have invited LAN 53 members to actually present on topics. And so it is kind of, it's growing to be something that there's a lot of interest in. So we want to make sure that you're invited to that. I'll send actually an application for that training, which is going to start on the 26th of May. And of course, we have created the opportunity that you guys can send us information. We are definitely wanting to add into this networking platform a way to highlight the providers that are part of LAN 53 that are doing really good work in these communities. And so we've already developed the monthly digest, which you guys should be receiving. We're also interested in collaborating on webinars and presentations. So we have a few different audiences that we have access to. So your expertise in your own individual fields is quite potentially something that there's an audience that wants to hear from you, wants to hear about the work that you're doing, wants to hear about the impact that you're making. So we have offered the opportunity to sort of pre-record things. That's something that we can support through the Zoom platform and play that back, as well as providing a spot on the monthly meetings so that we can have like an agency spotlight, so that on these meetings, you guys will have an opportunity to have, a block of time to present about your organizations and about the work that you're doing. And so the other thing is that we would love for you to subscribe to the LAN 53 calendar of events. So I am going to turn this over to Megan. And Megan, if you want to grab the screen sharing. So one of the things that I've asked Megan to do is to kind of give a short walkthrough of how you can actually go subscribe to the Google Calendar, so that you're able to get the training notices. We put a lot of information there that we receive from other organizations around training, grant webinars, and things of that nature. And so if Megan, you want to kind of take it from there.
Sure. It won't let me share the screen. It says host disabled, attendee screen sharing.
Okay, let me give you the. Okay, so can you request hosting?
Let me try. I'm not sure how to.
Okay, here we go. You should be able to share your screen now.
Okay. Now it says you can't start share screen while the other participant is sharing.
Bam, there you go.
Okay. So I think the easiest way to subscribe to the calendar would be for us to send an invitation to LAN members. And once we do that, you would get an email that looks like this. It's like an automated email from Google so I sent it to my personal email, sent my personal email an invitation to subscribe to the LAN 53 training calendar. And so that's what this email is saying. It should work with whether you have Google, Microsoft, whatever calendar you use, but because I have Google, that's just what I'm going to show you for right now. But if you have trouble, feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to help figure it out. So once you get this email, you just click on this link that says add this calendar. Let me switch over. And it will automatically add the calendar under here where it says other calendars. So the cool thing about Google Calendar is you can manage your settings. And the way you do that is you highlight over LAN 53 training calendar and click on these three dots. And you click on settings. And in here you can kind of manage what sort of notifications you want to receive from the calendar. If you want to be notified every time a new event is added, which I would highly recommend putting email notifications on for this, just because a lot of the things that get added to the calendar are training events or webinars or things like that require registration. And sometimes if you see it, if you go to look at the Google Calendar, oh, there's an event today, but I didn't register and now the spots are full and now I can't go. So that's why I would recommend having this new events get an email. I don't want to blow up your inbox with emails, but I think everything that we add to the calendar is important, I think, and beneficial and purposefully chosen to be added to the calendar just to develop that training and events that we think people might be interested in. So for example, this is one of the events. There's a webinar today on mentoring and supporting young people's mental health and well-being during COVID, and it's hosted by the Office of Juvenile Justice. Let's see. But in here, I'll have a little blurb about what it's about and then how to register with the link right there and the time and the date. So like I said, you can manage your settings to whatever you'd like it to be. If you want a daily agenda to send you, canceled events, changed events, stuff like that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Does anyone have any questions or something I can explain better?
You guys will have to unmute yourselves. Sorry.
No?
Okay.
Yeah, I like it because you can look at your own calendar and that one at the same time. If you don't want to crowd your calendar, you can just uncheck the box and it's not there anymore. But yeah, I think an important part of it is managing your own personal settings. We can't decide like how many emails you get. That's just totally up to your preference, how much you want to be involved with this calendar.
Yes. And I think like what I do is I get notifications once a week. And that way I can sort of look at what's on the calendar. And Tiffany is asking, do you have to use a Google Calendar?
No. So if you don't want to use a Google Calendar, there's ways that we can export the calendar into a Microsoft Calendar, into an iCal, which is for like iPhones and Apple products. Or there's just ways to export the calendar in general to whatever. Outlook. Yeah. You could export it into Outlook. Yeah. And I could email you, Tiffany, on how to do that.
Okay. And so what I will do is actually go in and send everyone an invite. And Megan, we may have to work this together because I know you add most of the training information. And so what we would like to be able to do, and I know, now everybody is sort of COVIDed out. And so a lot of your events and other things are being reorganized or rescheduled. But this is a way that we can, continue to sort of create opportunities that we're able to see what's going on at a glance. And hopefully that will create a better flow of information so that if you're having something, it may be something that we want to share within our separate networks, and also for us to find a way to support one another as these programs and events sort of get back on track. Right now, I think the focus has been really on making sure that we're loading these professional development and training opportunities so that as we continue to strengthen the structure of the LAN, that we are staying true to some of the goals of building the capacity of the individual organizations, which is really kind of a follow through on conversations that we've been having over at least a year about what is the LAN going to be to its members, right? So thank you, Megan, for sharing that. Definitely, if you guys have any questions, or if you need, if you're trying to do it and you're like, I can't get it, I think either one of us, I'm assuming that I speak for Megan, but if you give a call and say, look, I'm going crazy with this, we'll get on the line and try to walk through it with you, so that's not a problem. So like the question that Tiffany had about, more, marrying it to the Outlook, I think that is, that's something that we can work with you on. So thank you so much, Megan, for sharing that.
Sure.
And so, definitely if you can subscribe to the calendar of events. So I do also want to pause to ask if there were any questions around the work of the steering committee and around, the South Suburban Youth and Family Leadership Initiative.
Hey, Kimberly,
Yes.
this is Peter Lynch.
Hi, Peter. Thank you for joining.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to introduce myself to the team and especially say hello to Megan. She's done awesome work.
Hi, Peter.
I just
Nice to meet
wanted
you.
to say that.
Thank you, Peter. And Peter, introduce yourself.
Well, okay, Kimberly. I am an old fart. No, seriously. I'm 55. I was formerly the head executive administrator of Lions Clubs International. Unfortunately, I developed progressive multiple sclerosis about 5 years ago, so I had to step back a bit from my role at Lions at the top level. I served for 7 years now as a chief strategic advisor for Lions International. And although I'm now officially retired, I'm still a very, very active Lion member. And I'm proud to be part of your LAN 53 network.
Thank you so much for joining us, Peter. Peter's a very valuable resource, has a lot of institutional knowledge about Lions clubs and, the ability to work with Lions Clubs International is really what helped us kind of get over a hump where we can actually start to have some fiscal and human resources to support a lot of the work that we talked about earlier, specifically the South Suburban Youth and Leadership Initiative is a grant that was written from Lions Clubs through the Lions Quest Department to specifically support the work that we are doing. So I did write that proposal. And so I asked Peter to join us because, there are a number of local Lions clubs within LAN 53 that we are, I won't say 100% sure, but we're really maybe 80% sure that there will be an opportunity to engage those local clubs as we go through the process of planning out what we will be doing with those resources. So I appreciate you joining us, Peter, and I am looking forward to having you as a member of the team. I'm sure that people will see, like I do, the value that you bring to the table. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Kim. I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Thank you, Peter. So we want to move into the agency updates. We have, about, I guess, 10 people on the call. So the agency updates, what we started doing back at shortly after the initial round of closures related to the pandemic, we were asking agencies to share with us the we were asking organizations to share with us any particular alternate hours of operation, to share any event cancellations, and then just to kind of share a little bit about what has been the service impact as a result of the closures and the pandemic, and that service impact specifically around how is it impacting your clients, your staff, and if you all have adopted any alternative services to work through this pandemic and some of the modifications that we've all had to deal with in terms of coming online and things of that nature. So so at this point, if we could if we have anybody from DCFS or child welfare, we'll kind of go through the agencies by sector. And Megan has been really supportive in that she is collecting the minutes so that these updates can, when we send out the minutes, these updates are kind of laid out for you in an easy to follow fashion. So do we have anyone who is either funded by the Department of Children and Family Services or maybe a staff member that is working, directly with that population? Okay. So what about behavioral health, whether it's youth or adults? Do we have anybody from education?
So I don't know what department you want to say I'm in, Kim. This is Jackie. Because I'm in so many different departments. I do know education as far as the schools go. A lot of schools, this is their last week in schools. They are cleaning out lockers. They are also still giving out, this is the last week. I think tomorrow is the last day for the suburbs. I do know for free lunches, giving out free meals. And June, the first week of June is the last week for CPS.
Okay.
And then go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, Jackie, this is Tiffany Fincher. I'll go when you're done. I was trying to unmute myself. I'm here now, so.
Oh, okay. And then I do know some schools is doing graduations, some's doing it virtual. I know yesterday Hillcrest, they did a parade. District 228 did a parade for their seniors, and that it's still some of the schools, you can still contact like some of the schools to get resources for as help. I'm gonna send you an email, Kim, with that, and then I'll post some on the Facebook page for family.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I have.
Thank you, Jackie.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Tiffany Fincher, Parent Community Coordinator with Madison School District 162 under the PFAE grant. So specifically, I work with the preschool program, but provide support for the entire district as far as resources. So this is actually, let's see, for our last day is going to be the June 5th. So next week we will have 2 days where students are invited and parents are invited to come and pick up their belongings. And then we have some things that we're going to give out to students, some information, as well as just some things from us to close out the school year. Right now, we're just looking forward to closing out the school year so that we can kind of regather ourselves and try to make some plans for next coming school year, because there's only really two scenarios. We are going to start full on time. The question is, how are we going to start in terms of whether we're going to start 100% remotely or at a percentage of a capacity. So just kind of planning what that looks like. So that's really it. That's where we are now. I will probably be making myself available to any parent that needs support over the summer. But typically I am on a 10-month contract, but due to the circumstances, I'll obviously make myself available and share any resources or support that I can to families that need it. Because one of the things that we have realized over the course of this 10 or 11 weeks and experience this pandemic is that every family, our district is so diverse. When it comes to family statuses, social economic status, that there are people are experiencing in different ways, and there are different needs that they have. So also going forward and taking a better look at that and how, as a parent educator, we can service our parents next school year, because how we have serviced them in the past obviously is going to look very different for multiple different ways, because now we can see more than what we've seen before as far as what their needs are. And for so many families, the needs have changed. So, you know, for those families who may be receiving unemployment right now, they're probably making more money now than they were when they were working. But then what happens when unemployment is no longer available, and then there are lack of jobs? So, you know, just using that for one example, but, you know, I'm definitely open to, you know, any information or ideas of how, from a parent perspective, how they would like to be supported next year. What didn't we do as a school community, not just our district, but districts across the board, because we were all kind of just thrown into this. I think overall we did a great job, but we could always do better. And especially moving forward, you know, now, how can we do better?
Okay. And Tiffany, I would just like to extend an invitation for you to join the steering committee. You know, we were trying to find a way to support anybody that would be able to get that feedback from the parents, because I think that, you know, we're trying to serve families, and, you know, it is critical to have that conversation with the families, so that, you know, you don't kind of get into the circle of creating things that you think.
Absolutely, Kim, 100%.
And so I know that Megan and I were attempting to see, you know, we're attempting to set up some focus groups that she could run. And, you know, just, you know, not wanting to, you know, you don't want to harass people, you know, but, you know, if there is a way that you can maybe work with her to see if that is something that could happen, you know, that would be phenomenal.
So I am, I know that we had kind of chatted briefly. I was going to be a part of it. And then I was like, wait a minute, is this for us or is this for the parents? So I know that you have clarified that for me. My district it's very conservative, you know, when it comes to connecting parents with different things. Like I have to have approval for that. And right now, with so many moving parts and so many things happening, so many changes happening because of the pandemic, that may be a little challenging. Now, what I do have a little bit more leeway in is our parent advisory board. I'm actually meeting with them next Tuesday to wrap some things up. And I was going to take that opportunity to just kind of get some feedback. And I don't know, Megan, if you would like to, I don't know if I will have to get approval for that or not. Because I was going to say, if you want to hop on the call is only going to be about 30 minutes. I just wanted to connect with them to thank them for their work, because the advisory council does a lot of work within our school and putting together things for staff and teachers. So even before the pandemic, like we had a lot of stuff happen, and then we were going to close up the school year. With a lot of programs. So, but again, I was going to take that opportunity to get some feedback from them. So I don't know, Megan, maybe you and I can kind of touch bases with how we can work that out, because that is something that I do have a little bit more leeway as far as reaching out to all the parents as a body. I would have to get approval for that. And right now they're not, if it's not an emergency, it may not get attention.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate any help you can give with that, Tiffany. I appreciate that. And also, I know we have Dr. Young on the call. And so, we kind of tapped into Dr. Young because we were already involved in work with her district. And Dr. Young, I don't know if you want to kind of give an update, and then I also maybe think about, as an administrator, if there is a way that you may be able to reach out to some of the other administrators, in at least within the region that this initiative is going to cover, to see if you can get some administrative buy-in around this concept of focus groups for parents.
Yes, it's very important that we include the parents in how we're going to be looking for next year, especially coming out of this pandemic. And so that's one of our goals, is to make sure that we do have some platform for our parents to be able to go to, and to be able to support one another and provide resources. And then yes, we are willing to share anything that we do over in the district with other districts. We already have a parent liaison who works with our parents, and they meet, I believe, twice a month. And they have PDs, and they have networking functions. And so we would be glad to invite some of the districts over to kind of see how our platform is, and even encourage the districts, if they don't have a platform for parents, to initiate that for next year, because I believe that what we're going through, parents are going to need that support and resources to be able to support their children coming back into the new year, however it brings us.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm wondering, so Dr. Young, and hopefully I'll get this right. So Dr. Young is an administrator in District 156. So she's the director of special education.
Correct.
And you're also a board member at which district again?
Yes, I'm the vice president at Country Club Hill School District 160.
Okay. And so I guess the thought that I had is that sometimes, given Tiffany's explanation of some of the layers of hierarchy that have to be addressed in order to invite parents to participate in a focus group, I'm wondering if an administrator to administrator call might not be helpful to sort of maybe give that administrator to administrator explanation of why this is important and what the opportunity is. So that way, maybe if that's an opportunity to sort of give, and not just Tiffany specifically, but any parent coordinator, the ability to kind of work around helping to bring parents into a focus group setting, or just anything. It's going to be a barrier to, because I think that if you look at it, parent coordinators are part of the LAN, right? And so you guys are our window to the parents. So if you're having barriers around something as critical as engaging family and consumer voice, right? Then if there's any way that we can sort of help with educating administrators in other districts, or helping to build that administrative buy-in, then I think that would be something that would become a benefit from having someone like Dr. Young, who is an administrator, to kind of help with those situations. So I think that just having that insight gives us a lot of a lot of ways that we can try to measure our support as well. So I don't want to.
So Kim,
Yeah.
so I think so we have had focus groups before, and we worked through the LAN to do that, where the previous intern before Megan, she did come to our school. We did a focus group that included mostly parents, one teaching staff from each program, so that we could get the feedback. So the support was facilitating the group as well as structuring the questions so that we could abstract what we want to get from the focus group. I think the barrier at this point is all of what's going on. Not that the parents' voice is not important, because it 110% is, if not more, especially right now. But saying we want to have them invite our parents to be a part of LAN 53's focus group. So I think that is what the barrier might be for me, because then it has to go up channels for that to happen.
Right. And I don't want to.
And so right now, it's not going to,
And I
Hey, Kimberly,
yes, sir.
you have one idea. It may be a bad idea. I had my daughter, who is now 22, when she was in high school. She had a mental health problem, so she was on an IEP approved program by the school district. I know there's a lot of privacy around who's on IEP, but my question to Dr. Young, can we let these parents just generally know that there might be a resource that they could turn to for some possible help with, like, mental health counseling for their child, or like internet access? This again might be a bad suggestion, but I'm going off my own personal experience where my daughter was in an IEP program, and I wonder if that's an area we can tap into.
Yes, absolutely. I tend to sit in all my IEP meetings if I can, and I want to say probably about 99% even out of district, because I want to make sure that I'm aware of everything that is going on. And in those meetings, it gives us an opportunity to find out what supports parents need. Even now, while we're doing our meetings remotely, I'm able to find out what are the barriers that the parents are having with remote, just by being in those IEP meetings. And so those IEP meetings are a great source for providing information for parents. If I'm not giving it to them myself, my social worker is. And so that would be a great place to segue into providing resources and opportunities for parents.
Yeah, we won't divulge anybody's private information, but let them know, like family to family, and also LAN 53 is another resource they can tap into. Obviously, we won't violate anyone's privacy, but we let them know there's a channel they can tap into.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Peter. And so do we have anyone else from education? Okay. So do we have anyone that's from general advocacy, mental health awareness, parent advocacy, concern with policy or legislation?
Hi, this is Gia Washington from Sir Thomas Center. So I am with mental health education, and we have a community education program where normally we would go out and provide trainings on site, but we have switched to a virtual platform and we've been able to provide online trainings.
And Gia actually collaborated with me just last week in honor of National Prevention Week. Excuse me, and I think this is a prime example of some of the ways that that LAN can support agencies and organizations. So Gia actually did the QPR suicide prevention webinar, and we did invite all of the LAN members, but we also extended the invitation through Lions Clubs International. And so we were able to not only touch people from Illinois, but we were also able to reach individuals from Ohio, from Texas, from Delaware, and New Jersey, and even as far as Canada. And so now we've got people who are contacting me because they would like to have a repeat of that webinar for their local clubs, their local communities. And so it's a really good way to sort of, expand what you're doing, as well as people are sort of formulating their balance between what they're going to do online and sort of what they're going to save for after shelter in place is rolled back. These are opportunities that would be extended to anyone that's able to present online, to provide general information in support of the areas that you're serving in, and to gain additional support through the Lions Clubs, as well as to maybe even for those that are sort of in a position where they're actually doing specific programs that could be replicated in other states. So I want to thank Gia. We got a lot of really good feedback from that. And, that was kind of the first LAN 53 window to the world activity. So we're definitely looking forward to doing that again. And Gia, let me ask you, I know that when we talked about the QPR, that there was, and I don't want to get it wrong, you also offer a QPR for teenagers, am I right?
It's actually the same QPR, but if we have teenagers, then we would just sort of shift it with more of a youth focus.
Okay. And so I would encourage you all, even as you guys, especially like the parent coordinators and the educators, this is a really good tool to bring people together. And I'll tell you that we had a small group. There were about 10 people on the call, and it was maybe 2 hours, and people were really engaged. People were really engaged. The conversation was very open and honest. And Gia is a great facilitator, and we did not have to go through a whole lot to set it up. We picked the date. I handled the registration. I was able to give her a copy of the registration list and an Excel spreadsheet, and she was able to send out the certificates, and it was great. So thank you so much, Gia.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yes. And I believe that we did get the parent engagement, because I know that Tiffany and Jackie spoke. So do we have any other folks that are parent advocates or involved in parent engagement? And youth engagement?
Yes, I'm Janine Lewis from School District 148, parent educator.
Welcome, Janine.
Thanks for having me.
So are you guys doing anything differently in response to COVID? Do you have any updates from the district around parent engagement?
Yes, we are doing the remote learning. The parent, Nikki and myself, we have been driving to families' houses, dropping off e-learning packets from teachers. We had a transition meeting, Zoom meeting for our kids to stepping up to kindergarten. We had like 51 parents on our parent Zoom meeting for transition. Next week we are doing just I think with council, we're going to each family house with a yard sign, a book that to welcome to kindergarten, and a lot of goodies from the teachers, and we're gonna make it fun for the families. We've been in contact with parents via Class Dojo. They need anything, we've been assisting them in that capacity.
That sounds so cute. Thank you so much for sharing that update. So, so I'll just kind of just say, I don't know if you were privy to, if you were kind of chiming in on the idea that we were trying to find ways to conduct parent focus groups. So I don't know if that's something that you might want to maybe have a conversation about, how we might be able to engage those parents, in a way that's feasible and, for the district. So,
we actually had a focus, parent focus group. Actually, the beginning of this year, it was Afagasa Thunder. They were looking, they wanted to hear from the community and parents of the areas. So we had a panel of 15 parents along with this, I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name of the group. And it was like 2 hours long, and they really enjoyed the feedback from our parents. We do have a parent advisory board. We have parent cafes twice a month. So our parents are very involved in our district, especially in the ECC, in our ECC building, and in other schools as well. We also have focus groups from the district-wide. They come and invite parents from the whole district to different facilities, and they do different training. So we've been really having some great success in that capacity as well.
Have you guys transferred any of that to online?
Yes. That district has been, we do our school board meetings online via Zoom. We've been we're doing it. We have been doing a good job, but there are barriers because some parents don't have access to cable or internet. So those parents, so that's the reason why we are driving around, dropping off e-learning packets, paper packets to families because they don't have access to that. So if we're going to continue with that in the fall, then the districts need to think about extending that to parents so they'll be able to get on these e-learning venues. They can't do it because they don't have access to it or can't afford it. So something is going to happen if we continue to do this in the fall to reach those families. The districts are going to have to invest in trying to extend that to these families, at least for the internet.
Okay, that's pretty consistent. I appreciate the update. When you guys did your focus groups, were there any trends that sort of stuck out that the parents expressed that were barriers? Well,
resources in Dalton and the Riverdale was the major thing that stuck out for our parents. They have to travel to other cities to get things they should have in their own city or community. So they really talk about mental health services. They have to travel so far. We have kids, we have closed talk classrooms, but we have kids that have been diagnosed with autism, and they have to go elsewhere to get help for their kids. So that family was very vocal about if that should be something that's offered in their community.
Okay. So I will also, I know that Nakia is usually on And so we've got her as part of the steering committee. I would
Mhm.
definitely really encourage you to also join the steering committee, because I think that that's precisely the type of insight that we need, so that I'm just a big believer that you have to really allocate the resources where the need is. And sometimes we can have really great ideas, but if it's not in alignment with what the people need, then you just kind of, you're just kind of off the beaten path. So I appreciate you joining us today. And I think that's really good information to know. And even if you don't want to commit to the steering committee, would you be willing to maybe talk to myself or Megan at another date, just to kind of discuss ways, and even if it's to point us in the right direction, because we do have Dalton and Riverdale included as target areas. So anything that we can look at that can support your existing efforts would be really a very valuable conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. So do we have anyone else from child welfare, behavioral health, education, parent engagement, or youth engagement? Okay. So I'll kind of give a brief update on youth engagement. So one of the things that Family to Family is doing is in collaboration with one of the Lions clubs called Nights of Prevention and Education. And we are supporting a form of online meeting, online mentoring, where we are now in the process of training online mentors to work with small groups of kids around building resiliency and providing an improved access to mental health services. So we are going to start our first training session is going to start May the 26th, and it'll go through August the 4th. It is for 12 weeks. There will be a total of 6 Zoom calls that are spaced out every other week. The in-between weeks will be Google Classroom trainings. So we are opening this. We have a number of Lions that have committed from various states in the country. And we have a couple of Lions that are also from Canada. And so I am going to send out an invitation and application so that if anybody is interested in joining that training session, we have designed it to be training and support. So a number of the people who will be participating in that will simultaneously be setting up and recruiting youth to be involved in these groups. So the goal is that if we can train a number of volunteers, because it is virtual, that we will be able to support providers in their local communities, but we'll also have a number of volunteers who will be able to support youth outside of their community. So for example, I also volunteer and do a group, and I work with students out of Delaware, right? I work with a special needs group here that is for disability self-advocates. And so what we do is we meet with them, a couple of hours a week. We do a fun activity. We have a topic of discussion, and then we work with them to create social media campaigns to raise awareness around drug prevention education as well as mental health promotion. So each group sort of knows that these are the themes, but they are able to create their own ideas about what their social media campaigns are going to do. One group did a social media awareness using TikTok videos. Another group created a quarantine bingo board. The group here is looking at hosting International Day of Yoga and doing a live yoga presentation, and also a presentation on PTSD. So those are the types of activities that they're doing. And so we would encourage anybody who wants to consider hosting an event like this. We will provide the materials and the training and the support for that. It does not include any financial support, but we can provide you, if it's needed, access to a Zoom platform if you need a medium to host your cyber chats. So I'll send out the application for that. And it is also a good model that can also be used for parent engagement as well. So I will send that out after we end this meeting. Anyone from healthcare? Law enforcement? Human resources, like CETA or, any of those resources, food pantries, that type of thing. Any local government, and transportation. Okay, so I'll just make a note that, I wanted to list these out so that everybody could kind of get an idea. If you are able to invite people to the meeting, we definitely, as we move in the direction of trying to engage the townships and trying to engage the stakeholders that are important to the work that we do, I think this is a really good snapshot of the representation that would be very beneficial to the land. And so I wanted to just kind of close. I wanted to open the floor. We have a couple of minutes left to see if I missed anybody that did not get a chance to introduce themselves, or if there was anybody that wanted to add any feedback or comments or questions. Did everyone get a chance to introduce themselves? Okay, and do we have any questions? Okay. So I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. I will send out a follow-up email, and it will have all of the links for everything that I mentioned. You will receive a link to sign up for the steering committee. You will also receive a link if you are interested in the cyber chat training and planning committee. And I am going to ask, if you have not already completed the survey asking how you would like to receive information from the land, if you could please do that as well. We'll also send out an invitation so that you can make the determination of if you want to subscribe to the LAN 53 training calendar. I would highly recommend it. I know that we've had several really good webinars to come across, especially from places like the ARC of Illinois, who has been distributing funding to work with the disabled community. I think that, Janine, you brought up a good point. There are some barriers, especially with respect to serving higher risk students and families. So, attending those types of webinars and things like that may be a way for us to, you know, bring resources into the communities to support those things. Also, another really good provider of information has been the Office of Juvenile Justice Delinquency and Prevention. So they actually fund and support a number of community-based programs around mentoring, preventing sex trafficking, working with victims of domestic violence, as well as some support around substance abuse prevention, which really covers a real a good variety of other programs that will fall under positive youth development. So those are the types of things that we've been trying to limit being put on the calendar, so that, you know, it's relevant to the work that we do and it can support the things moving forward. So those will come out to you this afternoon. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And I hope that you have an excellent weekend. You find a way to celebrate the holiday, and we will see you guys on the next month.
Okay,
Awesome.
bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Hi, everyone.
Bye-bye, all.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Be safe and don't forget to wear your mask.
Yes, ma'am.
We will overcome.
Yes.
We will overcome.
Absolutely.
We'll get through this. I know we're just collecting information now, but this is fantastic. We'll find our way ahead, I'm sure, in the next month. And I want to thank Kimberly Hayes for all she is doing.
Thank you
Yes.
so much, Peter. I appreciate it. I stand on the shoulder of giants.
Actually, I'm kind of short. I'm 5'6". It'll give you a boost.
I got you, Peter. All right. You guys have a great afternoon.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
You too.